Ladies and gentlemen, people will try to distract you. They'll laugh when you say you're building something. They'll mock your silence when you start staying and grinding in the dark. But let me tell you something, the best glow-ups don't come from revenge and they don't come from begging for attention. They come when you lock in, when you stop arguing with people and start upgrading yourself. You shock everyone, not by talking but by becoming unrecognizable from who you were. You disappear, improve, and then walk back into the room with power that no one can ignore. That's how you shock them, not with words, but with undeniable results. When you're focused on yourself, you become dangerous not to others, but to every limitation that once lived in your head. You stop chasing validation. You stop measuring your worth by their approval. You become obsessed with your own growth, your peace, your power. And in that obsession, something changes. You stop showing up as a version of you that was shaped by opinions. You start showing up as the version of you that was meant to lead, to build, to rise, and while they're still talking about the old you, you'll be living a life they never saw coming. The moment you stop explaining yourself and start evolving in silence, the universe takes notice, energy shifts, doors open, people you never thought would notice start asking, "What happened to you?" But it's not what happened to you, it's what happened within you. You stopped needing them, you stopped waiting for the right time, you stopped being scared of being misunderstood. And you chose something radical, you chose to bet on yourself, to prioritize your own mind, your own heart, your own future. That kind of energy, it's magnetic. And it terrifies the ones who underestimated you. People will try to distract you, they'll laugh when you say you're building something, not because they're cruel, but because they can't see what you see. They're stuck in a mindset that demands instant results, cheap applause and shallow attention. So when you choose silence over showing off, they get uncomfortable. When you choose discipline over drama, they get confused. But that's your edge. You're not here to be understood, you're here to evolve. You're here to go quiet, lock in, and let your actions speak a language they've never heard before. There's something magical that happens when you focus completely on yourself, not selfishly, not in arrogance, but in devotion. You wake up and realize that no one is coming to save you, that no one's opinion will pay your bills, heal your trauma, or build your dream. And suddenly, all the noise, the gossip, the judgment, the distractions, it starts to fade. Because you no longer need their validation, you only need your vision. That fire inside of you, that whisper that keeps saying, "You're made for more," you start listening to it. You start respecting it. And with every small step, every silent win, every early morning and late night, you begin to change. And let them laugh, let them talk. Because while they're watching you, wasting breath, you're in the lab mentally, spiritually, physically grinding in places they can't see. They don't know about the nights you cried and kept going. They don't know about the times you were tempted to quit, but you showed up anyway. They don't know about the sacrifices you made when no one was watching. But they will, one day they will. And it won't be because you shouted from the rooftops. It will be because your results will be too loud to ignore, your peace will be too pure to disturb, your strength will be too solid to shake. The world teaches us to seek validation before we begin, to wait for approval before we act. But the truth is, the greatest transformations happen when no one's clapping, when no one even knows what you're doing, because that's when it's real. That's when you're not performing, you're becoming, you're building something sacred yourself. And when that becomes your obsession, not proving others wrong, but proving yourself right, that's when the shift happens. That's when the glow-up becomes more than physical, it becomes spiritual, it becomes mental, it becomes undeniable. You shock everyone, not by talking about what you're going to do, but by doing it. Not by promising change, but by becoming change. By walking back into rooms where they once overlooked you and watching their jaws drop not because you tried to impress them, but because you became something greater while they were watching shadows. And the best part, you didn't do it to spite them, you did it because you finally decided to honor your own potential. You did it because you realized your destiny was too important to waste time explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. So keep building, keep rising. Stay silent if you must, but stay relentless. Focus on your goals like they're oxygen. Pour into yourself like your future depends on it, because it does. Ignore the noise, respect the grind. And when the time is right, show up. Not to prove anything, but to remind the world what happens when someone stops talking and starts transforming. When you are focused on yourself, you become dangerous not to people, but to every excuse, every fear, and every insecurity that ever held you back. You stop waiting for someone to save you, validate you, or cheer you on. You realize that the only person who needs to believe in your dream is you, and when that clicks, something inside of you shifts. You stop chasing people who were never meant to understand your journey. You stop explaining your silence, your distance, your discipline, because deep down you know this season is about elevation, not explanation. Every time you choose to stay in and work on your goals instead of going out to please others, you're building something that no one can take from you. Every morning you wake up with intention, every night you go to bed with progress, you're becoming someone unstoppable. You're not doing it for applause, you're not doing it for likes, you're doing it for peace, for clarity, for freedom. And that freedom comes when you no longer need the world to see you. You just need to see yourself clearly, honestly, and with unwavering belief. People often think power comes from being loud, being visible, being known, but real power, it comes from being rooted, being unshakable. It comes from mastering your mind before trying to master the world. It comes from knowing that your energy is sacred and you no longer waste it on things that don't feed your purpose. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what makes you different. While everyone else is obsessed with comparison, competition and chaos, you're obsessed with progress, peace and purpose. You begin to look at distractions differently. You start recognizing what drains you. Conversations that once excited you now feel empty. Environments that once felt familiar now feel limiting. It's not because you're arrogant, it's because you outgrown your old self. Growth is uncomfortable because it requires isolation. But in that isolation, you start hearing your own voice again. You start making choices that align with the future you want, not the past. You're trying to forget. You begin to trust your gut more than the opinions of others. You learn to be your own motivator, your own protector, your own biggest fan. And yes, it gets lonely. Yes, there are days you'll question everything. But those are the moments where your mindset gets stronger. That's where discipline kicks in. You keep showing up even when the results aren't visible, you keep going even when no one's watching, and every step you take in silence builds a foundation so solid that when success finally comes, it's unshakable. Not because it came fast, but because it came from consistency. Because you kept choosing growth over comfort, focus over distraction, evolution over ego. Eventually the people who once overlooked you will start asking, how did you do it? And you won't even have to explain. They'll feel it in your presence, they'll see it in your discipline. They'll notice it in how you carry yourself, not desperate for attention, but full of purpose. You won't need to brag, your results will speak, your aura will shift rooms. And the same people who used to underestimate you will now be inspired by the version of you that emerged when you finally focused on yourself. The moment you stop explaining yourself and start evolving in silence, something powerful begins to happen. The world may not notice it at first. It might even seem like you've disappeared, like you're no longer part of the noise. But that's the beauty of it. You've stepped out of the chaos and into your own lane. You've chosen to retreat, not to run, but to rebuild. You no longer need to be understood because now you understand yourself and that clarity becomes your power. That quiet commitment to growth even when no one is watching becomes your edge. Most people live their lives performing. They do things to be seen, to be praised, to be accepted. But when you truly start focusing on yourself, you break that cycle. You stop living for applause and start living for alignment. You start asking deeper questions. What makes me feel alive? What drains my soul? What am I holding on to that I should have let go of a long time ago? These aren't questions you ask in public. These are questions you face in solitude. And the answers shape a new version of you built from self-respect, self-discipline and inner strength. At first, the silence might feel strange. You're used to broadcasting your moves, updating people, seeking feedback. But then, slowly, the silence becomes your sanctuary. It's where the healing begins, it's where the transformation takes root. You begin to notice the way your mind changes when it's not cluttered with opinions. You begin to feel your energy shift when you're no longer stretching yourself thin trying to meet everyone's expectations. In that space, you find your truth. You realize that peace isn't found in proving yourself, it's found in choosing yourself. And as you evolve, you become more protective of your energy. You no longer engage in petty arguments or chase empty conversations. You stop forcing connections that don't feel genuine. You start creating boundaries not to push people away, but to protect your growth. You come too far to let someone drag you back into a version of yourself you've already outgrown. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you've changed. You owe it to yourself to keep evolving, to keep moving forward, even if it means walking alone for a while. People will notice. Eventually they will. They'll see you walking differently, speaking differently, glowing differently. They'll wonder what happened to you, but they'll be too afraid to ask. Because deep down they know you've stepped into your power, you stopped begging for permission and started giving yourself authority, and the shift is loud even in silence. It's visible in the way you carry yourself, in the way you no longer tolerate the things that once broke you. They'll try to reconnect, not with you, but with the old version of you. And when they realize that version no longer exists, they'll be shocked. But this evolution wasn't about them, it never was. It was about finding yourself in a world that kept trying to define you. It was about reclaiming your worth in a society that profits off your self-doubt. It was about becoming so whole within yourself that even when no one claps, you still feel worthy. Even when no one supports you, you still keep going because now you're driven by something deeper purpose. And once purpose fuels you, there's no going back to pretending, no going back to shrinking. You've tasted the freedom that comes with full ownership of your life, and you'd rather walk alone in truth than stand in crowds built on lies. Let me tell you something that most people never hear in their lifetime. You are more powerful than you realize. You've been told to stay small, to stay quiet, to stay in your lane. But you were not born to fit in, you were born to shock the world by becoming everything they said you couldn't be. You were born to take your pain and turn it into power. You were born to rise from what was meant to destroy you. And now, right now is the moment you decide that the old version of you is gone. Not because something magical happened, but because you finally decided you're done living beneath your potential. Stop waiting for the world to clap. Stop begging for support. Stop wondering when someone will finally see your value. See it for yourself, clap for yourself, fight for yourself. Focus on yourself with so much intensity that the world has no choice but to ask, who is this person? You don't owe anyone an explanation for your growth. You don't have to justify why you're disappearing, why you're cutting off distractions, why you're not available like you used to be. You are building something. And no one sees the roots before the tree breaks through the ground. It's okay if they laugh now. It's okay if they don't take you seriously. That's the advantage of silence. That's the beauty of focus. While they sleep on you, you're grinding. While they talk, you're working. While they doubt, you're developing. And one day they'll look at you and realize they should have paid attention, they should have believed. But by then, you won't even need their belief. You'll be too busy living in the reality you created with your own two hands. Let them watch, let them underestimate you, let them think you're done, because every time they count you out, you get stronger. Every time life knocks you down, you rise with more hunger. You're not broken, you're becoming. You're not lost, you're building. You're not weak, you're being sharpened. And if you stay locked in, if you keep your eyes on your vision, your feet grounded in your purpose, and your heart burning with discipline, you will become unstoppable. Look in the mirror and tell yourself, I'm not going back, I'm not shrinking, I'm not settling. Say it with conviction, this is my season, this is my time. I've wasted enough days doubting myself, waiting on others, fearing failure. Now I'm moving differently, I'm thinking sharper, I'm healing, I'm leveling up. That voice inside of you that's been whispering, you're made for more, stop ignoring it. That voice is your truth, that voice is your power. And it's time you listen to it louder than you listen to fear. Every great transformation starts in silence. It starts with a decision no one else hears, a commitment no one else sees. But your results? Oh, they won't be quiet, they'll be loud. They'll speak for you in rooms where your name hasn't even been mentioned yet. They'll open doors that were once locked. And the best part, you'll know you earned every step, every breakthrough, every win because you stayed focused, because you chose discipline over drama, purpose over popularity, growth over gossip. And maybe you're tired, maybe you've been overlooked, underestimated, ignored. But let me remind you of something important. Pressure doesn't break, diamond sit forms them. The tension you're feeling isn't meant to destroy you, it's preparing you. You are in the process of becoming someone unrecognizable to the old you. So don't give up, don't slow down. Don't let temporary emotions ruin a permanent destiny. Keep moving forward like your future depends on it, because it does. You've been quiet for a reason, not because you're weak, not because you're unsure, but because you've been in the cocoon, you've been building wings. And when you finally emerge, they won't be ready for your flight. You will shock everyone. Not because you were trying to, but because you focused on yourself, mastered your lane and chose to rise. So go ahead, dig deeper, train harder, think bigger, believe bolder, walk like you own your purpose, speak like you already made it, move like your destiny is chasing you because it is. And when they ask you, how did you do it? Look them in the eyes and say, I stopped waiting and I started becoming. I focused on myself and I shocked the world.